Shabbat Shalom. In our Parsha, we find the Metzorah, the leper, who is removed from the camp, removed from society. In discussing the various acts of social distancing that are imposed on the Metzorah, on the leper, our sages offer very different, even contradictory explanations of these actions and rituals. Let's delve into a number of these and use that as a springboard to reflect about our own present situation of tzarat, of distance caused by the coronavirus. One example is that the Metzorah is commanded in the Torah to scream out, to call out, Tameh, Tameh, I am impure, I am unclean, I am contaminated. In the Talmud, we find a debate between Rabbi Abahu and Rabbi Uziel in the name of his grandfather, Rabbi Uziel the Great. And in it, two different suggestions are given to this act of calling out Tameh Tameh. According to Rabbi Abahu, the Metzorah has to scream out or yell out Tameh Tameh in order to warn everyone, stay away from me, I'm contaminated, I'm impure, I have tzarat. And yet, according to Rabbi Uziel Rabbah, Rabbi Uziel the Great, the Metzorah had to yell out Tameh Tameh in order to arouse sympathy. Tzarich lehodia tzaro lerabim. In fact, he does this in order to publicize his state of agony, verabim mevakshim alav rachamim, causing others to pray for him. In our own state of social distancing, where we take our distance and our masks in public warn others to stay away from us, does it arouse a sense of distance, of repulsion, of wanting to stay off and away, or does it elicit emotions of closeness? We're in this together. I wish we could be closer to each other. I daven for your well-being. I hope you're praying for my well-being as well. A similar debate is about another action taken by the Metzorah, which is the leper would cover his mustache, his growing hair, with his clothes. And the Ibn Ezra explains, Vatam shelo yazik beruach piv. The reason why the leper had to cover his mouth is very similar to our present situation, in order to make sure that he not spread the tzarat through his breath. And yet in Shira Shirim, we are told by Rabbi Huna that the act of the Metzorah, of covering his face with his clothes, covering his mouth and his beard or mustache with his clothes, is similar to the act of a mourner. Rabbi Una relates to us a minhag, a custom of mourners covering their face, the way you would in sackcloth, as an act of mourning and despair. And here too, that act is an act of actually drawing people in. Hey, I am in a low place. I am like a mourner. Being away from society, being away from others is like being a mourner. And so here too, we ask ourselves, as we did concerning the first source we discussed, does the action of being away from others, the masks that we wear, are they masks of repulsion or masks of shared mourning and grief? Masks that elicit sympathy and care for one another. Here is a third facet of this state of isolation. Badad Yeshev, we are told to sit in isolation. The Metzorah is commanded to sit in isolation. And Rashi quotes the Midrash of saying, why is it? Manishtana mishar tmeim le'shevadad. Why does this person who is in a state of impurity different from others, where he is commanded to sit in isolation. And Rashi answers in the name of our sages, Ohil ve'u hevdil bilshon hara ben ish leishto uven ish lere'eu af hu ibadel. Since this leper, who is through his slander caused separation between spouses, or caused separation between a person and his or her fellow, he too shall be separated from society. The state of isolation is a punishment, a burden, a measure for measure. But the word badad, sitting in isolation, has a very different connotation in Torah. For example, in the book of Deuteronomy, we read about Israel as a strong nation, and Israel dwelt safely and alone as Jacob blessed them in a land of grain and wine. Also their heavens will drip dew. Vishkon Israel betach badad. Badad here is not a state of loneliness, of alienation, but rather a state of self-reliance and independence, confidence. How do we experience this time of isolation, of being far away from each other? Do we feel it as a state of loneliness, which is quite natural and normal, and burdensome? Or, and perhaps it's not or, it could be an and or, can we also experience as a time of building inner resilience, sense of self-reliance and confidence that I can do this. I have enough within me, within my life's experiences, within my neshama, to do this. Sure, we have each other, but we also have ourselves. And Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us the capacity to face this burden. And by going through this day in, day out, we are becoming greater than who we thought we were as we entered into this crisis.